Hey everyone, Thornton Smash here, resident Apex Predator. Today I want to go over the stats of the weapons found in Apex Legends. I know a lot of people do tier lists and that is very helpful with their opinion, but I actually wanted to go in depth over the stats to kind of give you a breakdown of what guns are best suited for your playstyle. So let's take a look at the first one up, which is going to be assault rifles. Now on the left hand side of the screen, you're going to go ahead and see a table which has the name of the guns. As you can see on the left hand side of that table is all the gun names, along with the ammo type they use from light, heavy to energy, and then you will see damage, which is the first thing I want to go over. The far left column, for example, for the 301 says damage 14, 28, 11. 14 is indicating body damage. The middle one, 28, is going to be headshot damage, and the right one is going to be 11, which is leg damage. Moving further from that, you have DPS, which is damage per second. And then you have RPM, which is rounds per minute, and that is if the gun continually fired, you never had to reload, you never had to stop, and you hit every single shot. That's how many rounds it could produce. The mag size right there is starting from the base level with 18 for the 301, as you can see, and that's if you have no attachments. Then with a white one, it goes to 20, with a blue one, 25, and a purple, 28. That is how the gun table is going to work for every single classification of guns, from assault rifles, pistols, shotguns. It all will work on the same metric system, so just know that going forward for the rest of the video. Now moving into the assault rifles, you can tell most of these stats look pretty balanced between themselves. A lot of them have the same amount of DPS, rounds per minute, damage, reload, all that tends to be in the same area, and that's because they're all assault rifles. But there's little key differences that really make an impact on how you play and what gun you should use. Now, if you're new to Apex Legends or you aren't too familiar with assault rifles, there's two guns that are going to help you out a lot for those new players. And that's going to be the R301 and the VK47 Flatline. Both these guns are great for beginners, and the reason is it does a pretty solid damage per second at 190, and the RPMs for the 301 is great at 816. So you have a lot of fire rate with just those two guns, but they aren't quite as good as the other guns if you're an experienced player who can hit all your shots. Now the next two on the table are the G7 and Hemlock, and like I said, these are in my opinion better guns, but you need to be more experienced to use them correctly. For example, take a look at the G7. You can see that in the middle part of the damage, it does 60 per headshot, which is absolutely insane. It's the most powerful headshot gun on this list. However, the rounds per minute is 240, which is the lowest on the list. So that means if you aren't hitting your headshots, you have a very slow fire rate, and you're gonna have to find another way to compensate for that. So don't use this weapon until you're good with those headshots. Now the Hemlock, which is a personal favorite of mine, you'll see me a lot on stream playing with this gun, does an insane amount of DPS. It's the highest one there. It also has the second highest headshot rate with 39, although they have nerfed it, so do keep that in mind since the last patch. But the problem is that the rounds per minute that you see at 643, that's really dependent on you having a very good single fire option. You need to be able to pull the trigger very fast to get it to do that much. Otherwise it fires in bursts, which really can't be that helpful unless you're very close to the opponent, because the recoil tends to kick up, and unless you get really good mastery of it, it will cause you problems in a firefight. You need to practice with this gun in the G7 in the firing range in order to utilize them correctly. Last up with the assault rifles, and this is going to be the one that I don't recommend anyone really use, but if you really like it, go for it. I know I might catch some flack for it. I don't like it, and that's the Havoc. Okay, so the damage per second is good. It's better than the 301 or the Flatline, and the rounds per minute look really appealing. The problem is that unless you have a turbocharger on it, there's actually a windup. And so if you end up using this kind of medium or close range, you don't want to do that. Do not get close to someone with the Havoc, because they will shred you with an SMG before you even get a round out. I do not recommend this gun for anyone unless you have a turbocharger. Leave it on the ground. Don't touch it. Now moving into light machine guns, as you can see on the left, you have three options. You got the Devotion, the L-Star, and the Spitfire. And let's start with the top one. The Devotion is really great, has the highest rounds per minute. Once this thing starts kicking, it doesn't stop, and it does the highest damage per second as well at 240. This thing is a beast. This thing does a good amount of damage and has the most rounds, but once again, you want that turbocharger on it. It's still very good without it, and you don't typically want to be right up on them anyway, so you can kind of stay in middle ground, pick at them, and slowly build up the energy needed to rapid fire this thing. Very good gun. I'd probably put it at my favorite light machine gun for you to use, beginner or expert. Okay, remember what we just talked about with the Havoc and how you don't want to pick it up? Yeah, that's the L-Star. Do not pick this thing up, okay? Like, look, I know it looks appealing. You're like, oh, 600 rounds per minute. DPS is 180. It seems like the perfect middleman between the Devotion and the Spitfire. Wrong. It is not. Do not touch this thing. Okay, so the reload speed you can see on 1.15 seconds to 2.45. Yeah, that isn't actually reloading a mag, it's an energy cooldown. And when you're in the thick of a fight, you're typically blowing off rounds, so you end up with the 2.45 reload, which is still better than the other ones. But what they don't tell you is this thing eats up your screen. When you fire it, it's like a red giant death ball, Kamehameha, Frieza death thing. I don't know, there's a Dragon Ball Z reference there. But anyways, it's horrible. The splash effect is not fun. It's not very good. It's the Devotion Spitfire will serve you much, much better. The Spitfire is what I'm going to be actually recommending for new players. This thing is great. It's just consistent all around. Now, I know the damage per second looks really, really low, but what you need to look at is the mag size. It's got the largest mag here, not only for this classification of guns, but out of every gun in the game. You can shoot out 55 rounds of this thing before you need to reload, and the reload is only 2.8 seconds. You can literally lay into people with an entire round of 55, and eventually you'll hit enough shots to take them down. It's a great beginner weapon because even if you're not going to hit all your shots, you're still going to take them down by battle of attrition. Now, moving into the SMG category, this is where things are going to get really spicy, and a lot of people are going to be like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Well, guess what? I probably am. I'm not a professional player. I just play a lot and I have opinions about math and stats. So, you know what? Stop hurting my feelings. I'm going to go ahead and continue to do the SMGs now. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest about the alternator. At no point should you use this weapon. That's not to say it's a bad weapon, but it is a bad weapon. Basically, at least compared to all the other SMGs, it does the lowest DPS. It has the lowest rounds per minute. It's tied for second most mag size. And the reload is still not as good as the Volt and other ones. Honestly, there's no reason, unless you don't have a gun on the ground, to pick up the alternator. If they bring back disruptor rounds, which is a whole nother video, maybe this is pick upable again. But other than the fact that there's almost no recoil on it, there's no reason to grab this. Now, in terms of the intermediate guns, that's actually going to be the R99 and the Bolt. And I don't mean they're intermediate, because these are both very, very good guns. The damage per second is insane with 199 and 208 for the Bolt. So what is really differentiating them? Well, that's one, the RPM with R99 coming in at 1080. It's the only gun on this list that has a rounds per minute over 1,000. That beats out the Devotion, and that's kind of insane. And the Volt is no slouch there either at 783. They're both insanely good. The one upside I will say with the Volt is that you can shred shields, it seems, a lot faster with it, and it kind of comes with a built-in iron sight. It kind of has a nice sight to it that really kind of, in my opinion, I like more than the R99. But if you're gonna, try and get up really close and you want to put in as many bullets as possible, that's gonna be the R99. When you take off their shields, swap to that, you'll shred through them. The last weapon I'm going to go over on the SMG list is if the R99 and the Volt had a baby, and that baby was beautiful and absolutely destroyed everyone. You're like, I praise that baby. But no, seriously, the Prowler is insane, okay? So if you look at the damage per second, it's right in between the R99 and the Volt. And the rounds per minute, also right between the R99 and the Volt. What really separates it and makes it so much better is two things. One, it has a single fire and burst fire option, which really helps a ton and depending on your situation in a firefight. And the other thing is, that mag size, that is sexy, 35. It has the largest mag size out of every SMG here. And my God, when you have a DPS of 200 and a rounds of 800, that 35 bullets coming out, that makes a huge difference, especially because right now it's in a care package. So you're getting that 35 mound rag. What's a mound rag, you may be asking? That's when you've been doing this video for way too long and you really need a drink of water, so you accidentally get the word switched around. Now, moving into the sniper category, you've got a lot of variety here. So let's start with the charge rifle. Now, don't let these stats deceive you. I know the DPS looks horrible, the rounds per minute looks horrible, the mag size probably pretty decent, and the reload just regular. But this thing is savage, okay? So if you hit someone with this, it slows them down tremendously, along with it being a hit scan weapon. There's no bullet drop on this thing. You can hit them with a 4 to 8 with almost no adjustments. It's kind of nasty, and its fire rate really is deceiving because it's way faster than the Sentinel. It's a very, very good gun, and it's great for new players. If you're an experienced player like me, you're gonna be like, ew, a charge rifle. But honestly, if I pick it up, I do pretty good with it. There's nothing wrong with the charge rifle. Highly recommend it. I don't even think I have to say anything about the Kraber. Just look at the stat of the headshot. 435 for a headshot. That's insane. That's like, I'm gonna go cry in a corner when I get hit with one because it's just unfair. The one downside of the Kraber is that it's a care package weapon, and there is, I guess, a second downside, so I lied. And that's that it takes a little bit of time in between shots. So you gotta hit your first shot, wait a second, then fire again, so it's not a rapid fire weapon, and you will give away your position with that first shot. But if you make that one shot count with the 435, there's no need to take a second shot. The Longbow I kind of look at as kind of an upgraded G7. Now remember, the G7 used to be a sniper gun, and it was kind of very closely compared to the Longbow. They're very similar. The Longbow does take a little bit longer to fire, but it does more damage, and if you had a skull piercer on it with the 110 headshot, it's kind of crazy. It's a very, very versatile weapon, and you can use it close range to medium. It's not as good in that capacity, and as a sniper, it's probably the easiest to learn with almost no drawbacks in terms of new players. The Sentinel I'm going to put in the same category as the Kraber in terms of you kind of want to be a more experienced player using this weapon. You're going to need to land your headshots. You can use a shield cell to charge this boy up a little bit for a little bit more headshot damage, but the rounds per minute, you can tell there's a long reload speed and a long in-between shot speed here. So you really got to hit your shot and then move to another position to take another shot. Otherwise, the enemy team will advance on you very quickly, because unlike the Kraber, you're not going to take someone down most of the time with one shot. How the hell did the triple take get on my sniper list? This is a shotgun. Don't get it wrong. Okay, so the great thing about this is it comes in with a built-in choke. So you have the option to firing 3 separate blasts with this gun when you shoot, but if you hold down the sight, it'll actually form it into one bullet, which does an insane amount of damage. The in-between shot speed can also be way heightened. Now you once again have to look down the sight to get the full blast, which does take a couple of seconds, but after you hit that first shot, you can kind of almost rapid fire the 3 shots going in different directions, and that's also what makes it amazing as a shotgun. You have a spread weapon sniper up close. So after talking about the triple take, it would make a lot of sense that we move right into the shotgun talk, and the first one I'm going to go into is the Mozambique. Now you're looking at this thing. You see the damage per seconds of 135. You see the rounds per minute of 180. And you're like, yes, I'm going to use that. I will destroy enemies. They will call me the Mozambique Lord. Well, that's not the case, because it has a mag size of 4. Okay, which means you got 4 shots with this thing and you're reloading. And look at the damage on the headshot, body, and legs. It's the lowest out of all the shotguns because it's a pistol. This is the worst gun in the game. If you find this on the ground and you have no other gun and the other guy has got a Kraber and he's about to kill you, just cry. Just cry in a corner, because this isn't going to help you. You're done. Good game. We'll see you in the next round. Now the EVA 8 is up next, and this one's actually really good if you land on the ground and you're kind of a new player. It's very consistent, and you can get a double tap, which allows it to fire twice in the same round. The damage is lower than the Peacekeeper and Mastiff on the head, body, and leg, but it does good DPS, and the rounds per minute is the highest due to that double tap. It also has the largest mag size. This is the most forgiving out of the shotguns. You can mess up with this and still truck on. So for new players, this is going to be the shotgun you're going to want to get good with in the beginning. Now, then we have the Mastiff, which has been recently taken out of the care package, so people are becoming more familiar with how this gun works. And by familiar, I mean they still don't know what the hell constitutes as a hit with this gun, because I swear sometimes I hit him point blank and I drop someone in one shot, and sometimes I do 15 damage and I break my controller. Like, it's just confusing. The DPS is there. The rounds per minute is there. The mag size is there. It should be a perfect middleman shotgun. And sometimes it's the most overpowered piece of shit ever. And sometimes it makes you cry in that corner with the Mozambique ability. The last one up is going to be the Peacekeeper, and it's named aptly so because, my god, when you have this gun, you will keep the peace. This thing has a good solid DPS and a good solid round per minute, nothing flashy, but what really makes this amazing is that headshot of 143, and the really fun factor is, just like the triple take, this comes with a built-in choke. You hold down that sight, you hit him in the head, goodbye, you're going to the win, you got the dub, you are the keeper of the peace. This is my shotgun that I recommend. Once you've gotten good at the game, this is what you run. This thing is just nasty. The last items that I want to talk about are the pistols, and first I'm going to go with the P2020. Now you're looking at this and you're like, well, it doesn't do that much damage. None of these pistols really do other than the Wingman. The rounds per minute look pretty solid, and what's really good about these? Why would I ever want one? Well, one, it's the reload speed. Oh my god, everything is under 2 seconds except for the Wingman, and there's a reason. You can pop mags in and out of this thing and do insane fire. If you get the attachments for these weapons, it's lights out. The hammer point on the P2020, when your teammates have knocked off shields, this is the gun you want to use. This will absolutely destroy them. Not to mention, there's very little recoil on this thing. You don't have to memorize the spray pattern. You just look, shoot, and you're good to go. Now the RE45 is the gun that I recommend most for new players in the game because it's basically an R99 light version. There's no recoil though on this compared to the 99. The damage per seconds is the highest out of all the pistols, and you can just absolutely truck people with the 25 round mag, which is maximum for this thing. Plus the attachments for it make it even more overpowered. The RE45 is just a very good gun for new players to learn because it really doesn't require a lot of patience or skill to control. Now the last one up is going to be the Wingman, and this is going to be for that experienced player. Once again, you have to hit your shots with this thing because in between shots there's a little bit of a time period, but when you hit those shots with 90 for a headshot with a pistol, you're doing damage, and that mag size of 8 may not look like much, but it fires with such a heavy punch that it's worth it. If you hit your shots, easily best pistol out of all of these. But if you're new and inexperienced and you can't hit your shots, the in-between misses are really going to hurt you depending on what your opponent has. So there we go. That's every single weapon in Apex Legends by classification and their stats and how they perform. Hopefully this video is helpful to you. Hopefully it helps you figure out what kind of guns work best for your system of playing. Do let me know in the comments what you thought, and if you disagree with some of what I've said, I would love to hear your feedback. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not a pro. I just simply looked at the numbers, went with how I played the game and what I felt with the guns, and put that on video format. So if you have a disagreement, I would love to hear it in the comments. I will respond to every single comment. Also, just wanted to let everyone know that for next season, in Season 8, we're getting a 30-30 repeater gun. And this seems to be very similar to the G7. It will have an in-between shot. We'll have to see the damage per second, go over all the stats. But when it gets put into the game, I'll do a video covering that and how it compares to the rest of the guns. So if you do enjoy this kind of content, hit me with a like and subscribe. I come out with Apex content on the daily, and I really try to give you guys the best information that I can. Until next time, Legends, keep slaying in the Outlands, and I'll see you out there.